When it comes to the educational system, or rather the lack thereof, the fact is we've got a lot of critiques on it. Um, for starters, I actually believe that it's actually based off of the puritanical Christian organization of having a pastor at the front.
Interesting take on that one.
So, yeah, in that sense, regarding the whole ordeal about how to learn, actually,
Yeah.
this is part of the reasoning why I made that determination in the first place about educational system is basically a byproduct of the church ordeal. That basically, so picture this. Basically, you've got in a church setting, which was the same as it was in the 1700s. The pastor is the guy who is sitting up there at the pulpit. Everyone else is down in the pews, sitting. The pastor is the one standing. In that sense, the teacher is the exact same way. He's the only one, he or she is the only one that is standing up there.
Yeah.
Everyone else is sitting. Why sitting? It's a good question.
Well, I would say at least it minimizes distractions, at least
True.
physically, because you're not using your motor
But
skills at
what
that point.
but then that also begs the question, why is the teacher standing?
A lot of teachers sit, but it's usually once you get into like late high school or college for some
Exactly.
reason. I've never understood why if they're in elementary school they're almost always standing. To the contrary, though, that because if it's like the king in the pulpit is what my brain said, not the
Yes.
which I mean to be fair, like all came from like Roman Catholicism. So to be fair,
Exactly.
it kind of is like a king or an emperor in a pulpit, or in you guys in the pulpit, or no, yeah, he's in the pulpit and you're in the pews.
Exactly.
To that point, if that was true, then that would mean that the prison system is also the same. And if you were that simplified about it, you could then anyone could argue, yeah, that's the case because they have the warden and he's the top of the whole hierarchy,
Exactly.
and then he
Exactly.
has his clergy, quote unquote, which are the rest of the
Guards.
admin and the lead guards, security for the prison, and then of course there's everyone else,
Exactly.
the janitors, and then there's the prisoners.
Yes.
But that's if you oversimplify it like that.
True.
But if you think about really how the incarceration system in the U.S. works, that's actually you can't really truly compare it to a theological system like a religion necessarily.
Here's the basis by which that I'm making that distinction in that regard. When it came to what was it called? So in this sense, I'm sort of a scholar, a big time buff in the ancient Near East. Basically,
Yep.
here I am a Jew and stuff. So the what was it called? The
Religiously a Jew, not ethnically.
yes,
He's
religiously.
ethnically extremely Scottish.
Exactly.
As the English would say, offensively Scottish.
Yes, exactly. Offensively Scottish. Anyways, the fact of the matter is, one of the things that has been taught in the Jewish worldview is that basically no one is stands. No one does. Basically, it's
They call it respect, but what it really is compliance.
exactly.
In other words, this is the hierarchy, and you acknowledge you are beneath me
Exactly.
as a leader.
Yeah. Now, with that stated, inside of a traditional synagogue, basically, people, they made their way to the synagogue on Shabbat and all of that stuff. Basically, everyone gave commentaries. Everyone gave commentaries on their supposed reading of that week of the Torah or whatever. There was a guide who basically kept things isolated to the Torah and stuff like that, but ultimately he didn't make points.
Yeah.
He didn't spoon feed you doctrine in that regard. Basically, each person had their own worldview, which they could interject and stuff like that.
Right.
And everyone learned from one another in that regard. In fact, that's literally what the Talmud ultimately is. It's literally 2,000 years of opinions.
It's the world's first infinite op-ed.
Exactly.
Opinion editorial.
Exactly.
New York Times, eat your fucking heart out.
Exactly. New York Times, eat your heart out.
The further back in time you go, the actual origination of the U.S. educational system comes closer into view, and thus it's more still as it was when it was formed, which, by the way, was as a byproduct of the United States Department of Agriculture when it was formed in the 1800s. The U.S. government, along with the Rockefellers, predominantly, along with I can't remember the other super rich family that was here at the time with them, but they had a hand in working with the government at the time to officially. Yeah, that was the early 1900s. I think it was the very end of the 1800s, though. They formed the USDA, and in the process of that, the Rockefellers specifically realized there was a monopolistic opportunity on basically psychology and thus education that they could seize with it. And that actually specifically came from when they finished the USDA and its formation with the meat grading system. And if you pay attention to the meat grade system and then the US school system's grading system, they're identical. And it's not because they're identical because they're just that similar. They literally, it's the U.S. education system was formed as a byproduct of the USDA.
Interesting.
And so therefore that's why we are graded in school all the way through university, the exact same system and grading system and way that they grade meat before they put it up for sale in shrink wrap and styrofoam. So it was actually predatory because they're like, oh, we could, with the formation of the U.S. educational system, we could turn it into a tool to benefit our companies. And so it's really what it is for compliance. They want to create compliant, obedient, good little minions or cogs in the corporate machine. At the time, it was the good little industrial workers that were obedient and compliant to authority. And then from there, of course, as things modernized, not necessarily the greatest thing in the world, it just exchanged one horrible set of conditions for another, go figure, one set of shackles for a different set of shackles. It turned from in typical heavy industry to the modern, corporate structure instead. But it's basically can use the exact same system. All they have to do is rebrand and change a few different words and terminologies, and it technically is the same education all over again. So it's never really changed. That's one of the reasons why there's so many people that are trying to push for policy changes and actually to completely overhaul the U.S. educational system right now. From teachers and parents to students and former students,
they want a monopoly.
adults, because the people are sick of it, because it's just like, why the fuck are we wasting our time on this shit?
Exactly.
Going into debt, by the way, if they're stupid enough to buy into, oh, we need higher education, it's just a debt trap. That's why half of what you learned there is just the same shit you already learned at school. They already taught you. It's just to make sure you remember to be compliant. In other words, you don't have critical thinking skills. You're not going to think for yourself. You're just going to do as they taught you to do.
As what was it called? As they put it inside of that Pink Floyd song, "Welcome, my son. Welcome to the machine."
Just like another brick in the wall, right?